The Bible uses Babylon as a byword for immortality, and to Rastafarians, it symbolizes the repressive forms of white culture. But the word itself is derived from the Akkadian word Babalu, which means gate of God. So, what was Babylon like, really? Let's explore this ancient city of sin with a countdown of 8 interesting facts about ancient Babylon. Number 8. They were really into astrology. The ancient Babylonians believed that the movement and position of the stars and planets could be used to predict future events. In fact, much of our modern astrology comes from the Babylonians, and despite the name being derived from Greek, the Neo-Babylonians devised the zodiac. It is thought that the Babylonians were the first to assign a symbol to each of the 12 constellations. The Babylonians consulted the stars for information about harvests, wars, and aspects of their daily lives, and astrology made up the backbone of their religion. This devout interest in astrology led them to become pretty decent astronomers too. A Babylonian tablet, translated in 2016, reveals that the ancient Babylonians were able to track the course of Jupiter with surprising accuracy. And it wasn't just Jupiter. The Babylonians could predict planetary motions and developed a geometry system for this purpose. Greek astrology and mathematics were formed on the basis of Babylonian discoveries. Number 7. Education and literature thrived in Babylon. The Babylonians wrote in cuneiform, although this name, meaning wedge-shaped, comes from Latin, and they used over 350 symbols. The Babylonians wrote with sticks, bone, and bamboo on tablets made of soft clay. These tablets were then dried in the sun, and many of them still survive today. In addition to writing, the ancient Babylonians explored mathematics. One Babylonian tablet, dated to be 3,700 years old, is inscribed with the world's oldest and most accurate trigonometric table. The ancient Babylonians wrote about history and myths as well as factual recordings. The epic poem Gilgamesh comes from Babylonian authors, along with the creation myth Enuma Elish, which contains many parallels to the Greek creation myths. There is plenty of historical evidence that Babylon had libraries, and it most certainly had schools. Babylonians put a great deal of emphasis on the dedication needed to succeed in scholarly pursuits. As an old Sumerian proverb puts it, "He who would excel in the school of scribes must rise with the dawn." Number 6. They invented the concept of an hour. That this fact is placed number 6 on the list is no coincidence. The Babylonians used base 60 for their numerical system instead of 10 as we do now. The reason they did this is not fully known, although some historians postulate that it was down to 2 groups basing their number systems differently. Supposedly, one based their numerical system on 12, and the other based theirs on 5. As 12 multiplied by 5 equals 60, this base was used when trading together. It may appear strange to us, as 10 seems the most natural base for counting because we have 10 fingers. 5 may even seem logical, but 12? Take a look at your hand and then count the parts of each finger, excluding your thumb. Makes more sense now, right? Whatever the reason, the use of base 60 was derived from the Sumerians and suited the Babylonians. Due to this counting system for math and astronomy, it was logical to divide an hour into 60 minutes and a minute into 60 seconds. 60 is actually a pretty useful number, as it has 12 divisors. 12 and 60 characteristically share in that they have more divisors than any number lower than them. Confused? Well, the ancient Babylonians weren't. Probably because they were up at dawn studying. But if you ever wondered why time is divided into 60 portions, you can thank the Babylonians. Number 5. Assyrians were creators of the oldest world map. Known as the Imago Mundi, the Babylonian map of the world was created in the 6th or 5th century BCE, and it is thought to be the oldest surviving world map. Of course, it does not show the entire world, but it gives us a glimpse into the known world of the Babylonians, with the city of Babylon at its center. At the top of the table, labels of each location are written in cuneiform. Bodies of water are represented as circles and labeled Salt Sea and River of Bitter Water. An interesting thing to note is that the map appears to be a copy of an older map of the region. The map depicts Babylon as being surrounded by 7 cities and 7 islands. While the cities are real places, it is thought that the islands didn't exist and were instead a representation of the mythical connection between the earth and the heavens. There are stars and recognizable constellations on the back of the map that corresponds to the modern zodiac. It seems that these ancient cartographers were not content by just recording their place on Earth, but wanted to map how their world fit into the universe as well. Number 4. Babylon was already a city of a historical importance when Alexander the Great arrived. When Alexander the Great conquered Babylon in 331 BCE, the city was already nearly 2,000 years old. Its best days might have been behind it, but it was revered in the ancient world as a place of historical importance. Alexander probably grew up hearing stories about the fabled city. The Roman author Quintus Curtius Rufus writes how the Babylonians gave the city up without a fight. The Babylonians greeted Alexander with glorious processions of people singing and playing music. But it was the city itself, with its beauty and antiquity, which commanded the attention not only of the king, but of all the Macedonians. It is no coincidence that many of the discoveries and advancements attributed to the ancient Greeks have their roots in the knowledge of the Babylonians. Babylon was known for its excellence in mathematics, astrology, architecture, trade, and literature, which was probably coveted by the Macedonian leader. Alexander reigned 12 years and 8 months in Babylon before he died. Suspected causes of his death range from typhoid fever to strychnine poisoning or alcoholic liver disease. You might be wondering why Babylon did not put up a fight against the Macedonian leader. The Babylonians knew full well that resisting the incoming army would most likely cause more damage and death than welcoming them. The Babylonians were accustomed to being invaded, and the ownership of their city was constantly changing hands. Babylon had fallen many times, only to rise again. The citizens of Babylon probably just learned to live with the constant conquering and accepted that they would be able to go about their daily lives a lot easier if they didn't put up any resistance. Number 3. The most impressive thing about the Hanging Gardens of Babylon was the irrigation system. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon were listed as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Today, there is some dispute about the location of the gardens and who built them. Some historians maintain that they were created by Nebuchadnezzar II, as his wife Amytas missed her mountain homeland. Others believe they were made earlier by Queen Sammu Rammat. Although they are described as hanging, they were actually built on the top of vaulted terraces and were more like roof gardens. As impressive as they must have looked, the irrigation system was a thing of incredible ingenuity. The system was fed by the Euphrates River, and some historians postulate that it made use of what would later be called Archimedes' screw. This pump consists of a hollow cylinder and a spiral part that trapped fluid, forcing it upward to be discharged at a designated location. The roofed stone balconies were layered with materials like reeds, bitumen, and lead to prevent the water from leaking through the terraces. As of yet, no solid evidence of the Hanging Gardens or their incredible irrigation system has been found. Maybe they were never in the city of Babylon in the first place, as some suggest they could have been built at Nineveh, about 185 miles northwest of Babylon. Number 2. Women's rights. Although they were certainly not seen as equal to men, especially when compared to today, women in Babylon maintained certain rights that many of their descendants would lose. A woman's primary role was in the home. However, she could control her husband's property on his death and determine the inheritance bequeathed on their children. A separate class of women, known as the Naditu, had more freedoms than other women. These women were usually from the upper classes, and they were the priestess class. They could engage in contracts and borrow money. Some girls learned how to read and write, but it seems these were isolated cases. Women were also allowed to leave the house unaccompanied. They could play an active role in business, such as weaving. However, they were not allowed to vote and had no say in city laws. Number 1. The Tower of Babel was probably based on an actual temple in Babylon. Babylon is derived from the Akkadian word Babalu, and in Hebrew it is pronounced Babel. As it was pronounced similarly to the word Balaam, meaning to confuse, it led to a play on words in Genesis 11:9. Therefore its name was called Babel, because the Lord confused the language of all the earth. Archaeologists believe that the Tower of Babel is based on the Babylonian temple of Etemenanki, which was found in 1913 while famous archaeologist Robert Koldewey and his team were conducting excavations of Babylon. The name Edamananki translates to the house of the foundation of heaven and earth, which roughly matches the Bible's description, which is thought today to refer to the tower's name, a tower that reaches the heavens. The tower is thought to have been about 328 feet tall and was dedicated to Babylon's god, Marduk. Aerial photography of the ancient city shows a square-shaped outline at the center. This outline is thought to have been where the tower stood, the footprint of which has since become a watering hole. So, given all this information, why is Babylon synonymous with sin? Perhaps the idea of trying to explain the world and make sense of our place in it was seen as inherently heretical. Being accused of questioning God's creation has plagued scientists throughout history, and it seems that Babylon was the first city to foster this kind of thinking. It could be argued that educational and social advancements have led to many problems globally, alongside the benefits we have gained. If ignorance is bliss, the Babylonians were amongst the first to sacrifice bliss for knowledge. To learn more about ancient Babylon, check out our book, Babylon, a captivating guide to the kingdom in ancient Mesopotamia, starting from the Akkadian Empire to the Battle of Opis against Persia, including Babylonian mythology and the legacy of Babylonia. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Also, grab your free Mythology bundle ebook while it's still available. All links are in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.